All right. So yeah. So today we're just going to go over seed data using fixtures. So Django has like a built-in way to seed data instead of just manually adding it to like through the dashboard or through the terminal or through like Post-a-Co. We'll talk about nested Crud, which is having multiple dynamic routes. So like post 2, and then if post has a comment, it'd be like post 2/comments. So you see post 2's comments, and then you can see an individual comment on post 2. So it'd be like posts 2/comments/comment ID of 1 or whatever. And it's pretty much a continuation of this. With the views, everything is relatively similar, just duplicated down. And we just have to add some additional items to it. All right. Any questions on what we're going to cover? All right. So if we want to actually seed some data, so when you get into your first job, or not your first job, but as a software engineer, if you're ever going to be working on an application, the first thing you're going to have to do is set up the app that you're going to be working on your local machine. And that includes, so it's like all the production code. You're going to have like clone it down onto your local machine. And then you're going to have to create a database. So typically, if your organization has really good documentation, it'll give you a step-by-step line of how to go ahead about doing that. Like here, you're going to create a development database, like a testing database, but you'll never have the actual production database on your local machine. And in the development database, which is just dummy data that you all worked on, you're going to have to create that database and seed that database with data. And instead of just, again, manually adding everything, there'll be like a seed file or so like a dump file, a dump SQL file that has a bunch of data in it. But in Django, we're able to create a seed file through what is called Django Fixtures. But before I do that, let's go ahead and extend the functionality of this application. So right now in my posts, so I've got a post model, but I'm also going to want to have a comments model as well. It's because a post have comments. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create another model called comment, and that's going to inherit from the models.model field. And I'm going to say like post equals models dot foreign key. And that foreign key, oh, I see I got an error there. Foreign key is going to be the post model. We'll do the on delete, the cascade. That's not right. Is it just, why isn't it? There we go. And then related name, we'll do comments. All right. So I guess we can also do like text, comment text equals a text field. Like so. And typically we'd also have an author for this as well. But I guess I get right now, I might make another user just so I can create yeah, I guess I'll just do that.
So,
Yep.
do Does it need to be models.cascade? I think I typically put that there.
Is it? Yeah, you are right. On delete. Yeah. Thank you. All right. And then for the author, so like comment author model, we'll also do everything the same, but we'll do comments on this. This might throw an error. So author.comments, post.comments. I think that should work. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead because we already have one user. I'm just going to go ahead and Python manage.py run server. I'm going to go ahead and create another. Uh-oh, what's going on? The hell is that?
I've gotten this error a few times. I've had to install Python-tk, I think.
Yeah, same for me.
Y'all got this error as well? Interesting. Module not found. I just had this running. Interesting. So you just have to what?
Did you have it running before you changed your models?
I did, but that's weird that this would. Oh, I guess yeah, that would work. So I just want to see what this does. Where'd that error go?
Sorry to cut you off, Juan.
No, you're fine. No module name.
Yeah, the tkinter's that happened to me before. It looked like I imported it up at the top when I accidentally
So it looks like this is
on your VS Code. On the first line. It looks like it's added on it, but it's not being used.
So your IDE is trying to import something it's not using.
oh
Yeah, right there.
there we go.
Because you had done Cascade instead of models.cascade.
Yep. Thank you. Paired or group debugging. That's how you do it. All right. No, I'm not going to save. All right. So I already have a super user TA pre. I'm going to create another user by going to the admin panel right here. I'm going to say users. I'm going to add another user. What's another username I should add? Let's see. I'm drawing a blank.
Chad.
There we go. All right, so you've got this information. So I'm going to do like ABC, 1, 2, 3. Hopefully I remember that. ABC, lowercase ABC, 1, 2, 3. Save. Let's see if this works. All right, Chad was cool. And I'm just doing that just so I have multiple users on there. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and run. I'm going to have to. So I added a new model. So what am I going to have to do next? So Python manage
Make migrations.
Make migrations. So if I look over here in the migrations, we got our initial script. So we created another model called comment. And there it is, comment. I'll go ahead and migrate that. All right, cool. Migrated that. Everything looked good. Great. So let's go ahead and add some dummy data in here. So in order to do that, I can do it inside of my Django app. I can create another directory at the same level as my templates or as my migrations called fixtures. Yeah. So fixtures. And then inside of here, I can create a file of pretty much anything. I can call it whatever I want, but generally best practice is just call it seed. And this is going to be a JSON file. And if I can look here, I can say Django fixtures, which I've already looked at. It says providing data. So providing initial data with migrations, providing data with fixtures. You can also provide data using fixtures. However, this data isn't loaded automatically, except if you use, I don't know what any of that is. All right. So you can create fixtures either using JSON, XML, or YAML. XML, not very familiar with. I just know that banks use it a lot. It is a good file format. It's a very popular file format. YAML, does anybody know what YAML stands for?
Yet another markup language.
Yep. But that's kind of funny. So there's also a YAML file, but JSON, we'll just go ahead and use the JSON because that's the most popular. So how we can look at that, so you can see the difference between how a YAML file is constructed versus a JSON file. So it looks like we have an array of an object where we access the model through the app name followed by the model name. We added a primary key. So what's the ID of this entry, and then what the fields should be on that entry. So I'm just going to copy this over to use this as a reference. So we have model, so it'll be like blog. I'm just gonna blog post. Let's see. So blog post. I'll do blog down here. And then the fields will need to be author, title, text, publish date. So I can say author. And this author is just the ID of the author. So TA Preet has an ID of 1. Title. I can say this is TA Preet's first post. Title, text, published date. So text would be, this is the text field of the first post, or I guess this would be the second post. Second. And publish date will need to be a date time. So I don't know the format of that. Python, date time, format, not formate, what it looks like. Let's just see. I just want to add if there's any examples. Just something I can actually just like copy in there. Let's see. So would this be it? I just want to see if this works. It might not work. Probably not, but we can try it anyway. All right, so that's for the second post. This is the first post. Say 2012. So let's just keep it simple with those two. And then we'll kind of show how we can relate comments to that as well.
You gotta change the text on the first post.
I need to change the text.
Yeah, you still. Oh, no, it's changed. That's
Oh, okay. No worries. Thanks for double checking everything. All right. So once we do that, in order to actually load this, we can say you'll store all this data in a fixtures directory inside of your app. That's what we just did. So we have seed data inside of our fixtures directory inside of our blog app. And then in order to run that, we can run Python manage.py, load data, and then the name of our fixture file, which is that seed dot. So if I run Python manage.py, load data, seed.json, see if it works. All right. We got a couple warning, date, time field, published date, received a naive date time while the time zone support is active. So it looks like it had a warning for this part because it doesn't have, it's not actually, so I think I could have done that. Let's actually just do this again. Drop DB blog, create DB blog.
you gotta change the time in the first post too.
Oh. What do I have to change?
The time format in the first post.
Yeah, I'm gonna just see if this still works. I just want to see. All right, I'm just gonna kill this database because that's why I know. Thanks. Drop DB. Create DB. Python manage.py. Migrate. Now I'm gonna run that fixtures file. Oh no. Oh, I know what I did. Does everybody remember? So I dropped that database, which was stupid. Python manage.py, create super user. So I have to create all the users again. Let's go ahead and create that second user. So refresh that. Add user, Chad, AM, ABC, 1, 2, 3. All right. Now that should work. Clear. All right. So I still got that one warning for this initial date time, but this one ended up working. So I can run the server. And now if I just go to posts, you can see I've got a couple of posts now. So that's one way you can do it, and we can keep adding to this. So if I wanted to add another one, let's add some comments. Whoop. So why is it doing that? So let's add like a couple of comments to this. So blog instead of post. We'll just do comment. So we're targeting the comment. So author, so post. We'll comment on post 1. So we have post, comment text, comment author. There we go. We don't have a publish date. So if we're commenting on post 1, the comment author will say Chad is commenting on that. This is Chad's first comment. This is Chad's second comment. So that's how we can access the post 1, comment author 2. So what I don't know, let's see if this works. Since I already seeded it once, and if I run the seed file again, will it overwrite it or will it just add to it? Let's see what happens. Python manage.py, load data, seed.json. All right, that's fine. We got that warning. Installed 4 objects from 1 fixture. All right. So if we come over here, we refresh that. Oh, let's start that server. So there we go. So it looks like it reseeded or overwrote everything. But we don't see any comments yet because we don't have a route to see the comments, or our logic in our view doesn't show comments yet, which is okay. But let's go ahead and visit our admin panel and see if we can see the comments. So in our admin panel, we only have registered the posts table or the post model. So how do we make the comments model show up in our admin panel? Juan.
How do we make the comments model show up in the admin panel?
Yep. So right here we have posts showing up here. How do we
have
get
to do it added to the admin.py?
Juan?
I'm not sure.
All right. Latasha?
The admin.py file?
The admin.py file inside of our Django app blog. So we have, not the init. So inside of our admin, we have posts. So we're going to have to also import the comment model. And again, this register takes in, it could take in a list of models as well. So we can do post comment like so. I believe you can also just come down here and register it like so. I'm pretty sure you can do that. Or I just usually say like my models equals post comment and then register my models. And so the server restarted. So if I come over here and if I refresh that, I've got my comments that show up now. So if I come over here, we have a comment object 1 and 2. I'm unable to see what that looks like. So inside of our comment, let's go ahead and create the dunder string def dunder str, takes in self and returns self dot comment text. So if I do that and if I refresh that, now it says this is Chad's first comment. And you can see what post it's associated with and who the comment author is. All right. Posts. All right. What questions do you have about seed data and fixtures? Has anybody used fixtures before?
What's the use case for this? Is this like really useful if you already have a JSON file and you just kind of want to migrate it over to your database, or like when would you use this?
So a lot of times when you're first building out an application, you're dropping your database a lot just because you're still developing. So having a seed data, like an extensive amount of seed data, is good, so you can just quickly load a bunch of data quickly. So when you drop your database, you don't have to go in and manually create a bunch of entries again. So having a seed data like so is good. Yeah. It could take a while to build like seed data, but once you have it built, it's pretty easy. As you can see, it's just load data. Or what you can do as well is export your current database into a file as well, but we won't talk about that until later on. And there are applications out there like create seed data JSON. There are some websites that will like create fake data JSON, JSON generator. So if you want, you can actually create fake data and then like copy and paste what you need into the seed JSON. All right.
Is there a way to get it to append rather than overwrite?
I do not know. It's a good question. Probably, I don't think so. Well, I think it automatically just overwrites because your primary keys are unique. So if you just kept on appending one, like it wouldn't allow that to happen.
Okay.
Now, let's see if I got rid of this primary key. Would it automatically generate that primary key for us? Because if that's the case, maybe never done that before. Probably still works. Yep, still works. So let's do it like multiple times to see if it does. Then Python manage dot I run server. So there you go. So if you don't want to, if you just want to append data, just remove the primary key. Cool. Is that helpful?
Definitely.
So if you add that primary key, it will overwrite. Oh. I'm just gonna keep it as is. So I just want, oh, wait a second. Is it just continuing to append? Or it must, hold on a second.
Can we look at the DB and post code? And
Yeah. Because I don't want them to have. Okay, so it looks like it's like let's kill that. Run that again. Refresh. Huh. Yeah. Not quite sure why.
Are you worried about the order?
No, more so like why it appended and then I added the primary key and it's not appending anymore. Oh. I can also just delete everything. Well, anyway, if you want to see data, Django Fixtures works. So there we go. All right. With that, let's go ahead and take a 7-minute break. Be back at. All right. So after we migrated, not migrated, seeded some fake data, let's continue and adding the routes. So we have posts for one table. Let's create routes for another table. And this is for a nested CRUD URL pattern. So inside of here, these are the post routes or post URLs, but we'll want to essentially do the same thing, but for comments as well. But typically when you make a comment, there's already a post attached to that comment or a post associated with that comment. So if I wanted to view all the comments associated, comments URLs, if I wanted to see all the comments associated with a specific post, how should I do this? So what I'm going to do is create another path or URL to the post ID. / comments. So when I visit a post ID / comments, I want to get a views.comment list. So I get a list of comments that are specifically associated with this post. So I could say name equals comment list. You could create a separate route that just lists all of the comments, but we just want to list the comments associated with this specific post. So what we'll do, so we created a comment list. Now, again, create a URL. Now go to our views. Let's split the screen there. And very similar to this part, we'll want to grab, instead of a post list, we'll want to create a comment list, which takes in the request. But we also have this post ID here. So we're also going to take in the post ID. So we can say the comments equals, what is it? Comments dot object dot, what is it? Is it where?
Get.
Is it get where the, actually, first thing we're going to do is grab that post. So post, or didn't we have like a helper method up here? No, we didn't. Post dot objects dot get where ID equals post ID. And here, let's look at the models where the post equals post. All right, now we're gonna have to come up here and import the post or the comment model. Or what else can we do? How can we grab all the comments? So right here, I'm grabbing the post. Right here, I'm grabbing going to the comments and grabbing all the comments that have this post. But what's another way we can grab the comments once we have this post?
Use the related name.
Yep. So let's just do that. Post.comments.all. So it grabs all the comments. And now I can let's just print the comments to see if this works. So when I go to post ID 1/comments, so post ID 1, let's just /comments. It's going to give me an error. But if I come down here, comment views that comment list. All right, that's normal. If I scroll up, I can see the query set where this is Chad's first comment and this is Chad's second comment. So once I have that, I can pretty much do the same thing as the post list. Render instead of blog post list HTML, I'll do blog comment list HTML. So return render the request blog comment underscore list dot HTML. And for the data, let's go ahead and pass in the comments and the post. So I can let you say data post equals post comments equals comments. And then just pass in that data. Now I can create another template. Comment underscore list dot HTML. And I can kind of emulate the post list instead of all posts. I don't need that block there. But in here, I can say like H1 all comments for post dot title. And then for instead of post, we'll do for comment in comments. We don't have a publish date. I'm just going to keep things simple. So href, I can go to an individual comment eventually, but right now I'm not going to do that. Comment dot who is it? Comment that comment text. And in here, I'll do comment dot author or comment author. All right. So if I come over here and if I refresh that, here's Chad's first comment. I'll just do author. Yeah, there we go. Comment, is it titleize? Is it capitalize? I don't know if that's a one. So I can say like Django template tags. There we go. I think it's capitalize. So if I want to capitalize capital cap first, capitalizes the first character of the value. Cap first. Now, if I refresh that, it says author Chad instead of a lowercase Chad. All right. Questions on this nested part? So I go to post/post ID/comments, and that grabs all the comments on this is T Preet's first post. But now when I click on that first comment and second comment, I just want it to go to the individual comment. So I can go very similar to the detail, the post detail. But instead of post ID/comments, I'm going to do post ID/comments/comment ID. And that's going to give me a comment detail.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
When we made the path for the comments, excuse me, the fact that we put in post ID lets it know that it's already connected to post.
So right here,
Yes, that makes it connected to the post path.
it doesn't necessarily connect it to the post path. Like there's nothing inherently that automatically connects us to the post path. What makes this connected to the post path is in our views is that we're grabbing that post ID and we're grabbing that individual post.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But we can technically call this whatever we want, as long as whatever we're passing into that comment list and comment detail is the same as this variable, essentially. Yeah. All right. So once we have the comment detail, we can come over here, def comment detail page. Now this takes in not just one post ID, it takes in also the comment ID. So post ID and comment ID. And for this one, we can also do very similar, get post equals post.objects.get, where ID equals post ID. I should create a helper function because I'm doing this post get like 4 times. So I'm going to go up here and create a helper function called def get post, which takes in the post ID and just returns post dot objects dot get ID equals post ID. So I can do get post ID. And then also with the comment, I can do comment.get or comment.objects.get ID equals comment ID, like so. And then just return. I can also do like the data, but I'll just return render the request blog/comment detail.html, and then the data, which is post and comment. Now, depending, we may or may not use this post data inside of our or actually, yeah, we might use it in our detail HTML, but that's just up to us whether or not we want to use that. All right, so we have a comment list. Now let's create a comment detail page. And we can create something similar here, extend space, create block content. we could still do the same thing in here, but instead of this for loop and this A tag, we can just have and for have the individual comment. So then in the comment list, we have that link. We can make it a named route. So URL, comment, detail page. With the detail page, we need to pass in two things if we want to actually go to the detail URL. We needed the post ID and the comment ID. So we could say post underscore ID equals post.id space comment underscore ID equals comment.id. And that post ID in here is associated with this part of the URL. And this comment underscore ID is associated with this part of the URL. So if I come over here, if I refresh and click there, we are now at post 1 comments 1. If we want to see a second comment, you can see Chad's second comment. And I guess that's not all. Here's a for the post title. All right. But here, typically when you're here, you also might want to see the comments in here. We could do that as well. But let's also add like how many comments exist on the list page. So how many comments there are on for each comment. So, and I'm not going to go through all of the nested CRUD because we will cover that later. But here are like the first, here's like the first one. That's where it's nested CRUD, where there's two nested dynamic routes. So in the post list, in here, let's see if we can grab. So for post and all posts, we have the post title, post text. How can we grab the comments? So we're in the post detail page. We're looping through all the posts. So for post and posts and all posts, how do we grab the comments associated with that post inside of our template?
To the post.comments, but you're trying to get the total number of comments associated with it?
Yeah, so in here, we can do post dot comments dot count. So like total. And in here, so we can say 0. So let's just look at what this looks like. So if I come over here, we have 2 and we have 0. And what else we can do is say 0 comment, and then we can say post.comments count pipe, and we can use another tag. So we have cap first, add dashes or slashes, center. But where are we at? But we have another one that's called pluralize. That says, hey, if this value is greater than 1, pluralize comments. So if I come over here, so we have 2 comments and 0 comments. If we had 1 comment, so if I wanted to add like a comment in my add in dashboard, just real quick to the second post. Here is a comment. We'll say Chad did this, save. And if we went to all posts again, we have one comment. And there's another way, since this is kind of long and we're doing it twice, we can actually reassign this value to a variable using what is called the with keyword. So with, we can say like total underscore comments equals, well, and then we also have to do an end with. And with like so, and now we can access this total comments in place of this part. So we're essentially assigning a variable to this post.comments.count. So if I refresh it, everything still works. All right. What would you like me to do? Continue on with this nested CRUD to create like the edit, delete, and new comment field, like, or the new comments URLs, or should we go in kind of do some third-party API stuff?
Third-party API.
Anybody else?
API.
API.
Okay.
API.
Wow. Let's get a nested CRUD. We don't. No one wants a nested CRUD.
I got one question.
Yep.
I don't have to go into the full detail, but if you were to add those comments to the post detail page instead of having them as a separate page, can you just speak high level what that would?
Yeah, we can actually do it real quick because it doesn't take that long. So in the post detail page right here, we can create like another section. And in here, we can say for comment in post.comments.all, and we can do end for, and we can actually come over here in the comment list and pretty much copy that code and in place, put it right here. And it should work. So if I did that, and if I refresh it and I click on the first post, so I see there's 2 comments here. Click here. Excuse me. You can see my comments associated with this post.
Nice.
And also in the post list with this part, I can actually make this an href. Just might as well just do it. So post detail. So here, and maybe I want to, instead of going to the post detail, I want to go to the comment list. Actually, yeah. See if that works. So if I go back here, I've got 2 comments, and it takes me to all the comments for post 1. So it goes to post 1/comments. I don't know. So you can pretty much do this. You can like navigate around your entire application, and these are all just So here's that nested CRUD or the nested, I would say this is the nested README part of the CRUD. We haven't created a comment yet from here. So if I wanted to create like a new comment on this part, like this is Tom's first post, I can delete the post, edit the post, or like I can have a form down here to like create a new comment, or I can click a link that takes me to a new form to add a comment to this post. But we'll all be doing that later. All right. So we want to do third-party APIs.
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
I know it's been covered, but in the HTML post.comments, that works because of all the way back in our models, we named that relationship, right?
Are you talking about like right here?
Yeah, the reason that works.
Yep. So right here. we can do
Okay, that's the
post-
related name.
Yeah. Post.comments. So if we do comments.post or comment.post, we can grab the post associated with that comment. But this related name goes in the reverse. We can start with the post.comments and grab all the comments associated.
Awesome, thank you.
All right. So let's do third-party API stuff. Should I create a new app in here? Because it's not going to be necessarily related to a blog. Or should I just continue build upon this? So what I'll do, I'm going to create a new app. Clear. I'm going to create a second Django app in here. And what I'm going to try to do is create. So a couple of things. Pretty much one thing I'm going to do is use a weather API. I'm going to store locations inside of a database, and I'm going to store like zip codes as well. So I want to be able to grab the weather by the zip code. So I want a list of locations, the current day's weather. When I click on a location, I want it to give me the, 5-day forecast or some forecast. That's my goal with this. Any questions? All right. So this is one of the rare times we're going to create a second Django app. So I'm going to do Python manage.py start app. I'm just going to call it weather. All right. So I've got my blog app and now I've got my weather app. So I created a new Django app. What's my next step I should do?
Edit the settings.
Yep. So in my settings.py file, I'm going to go ahead and add weather. All right. So I've added the weather. Now in my models, I'm going to create one model, class, location, models.model, and address line 1. Or I guess I'll just do. I guess I should just call it address probably. Line 1 equals models.char field. Max length, just do 255. Line 2, max length, null equals true. Blank equals true as well. City. So we can say state. And the state, I'll just have max length of 2. And zip code. And I'll also zip code, I'll do max length 60148. That's 5. And I think that's good. Any questions on this one? Self. Self. City. Self dot state. Self dot zip. All right, city, state, and zip code, because that's good enough. All right, so we've got an address. Let's go ahead and make migrations. So Python manage.py, make migrations. We'll do weather. So create a model address. We'll migrate the weather app. All right. All right. So next, let's go ahead in our Django project URLs. Let's go to weather app, include the weather .urls. So inside of our weather Django app, urls.py, I'm going to grab the blog URLs. There we go. Post URLs. And here. So when we go to, what the hell's going on? All right, so when we go to weather, we want to go to like a weather list, or I'll actually call it location list. And then inside of reviews, I'm just going to def location list, takes in the request. This should all be pretty familiar. Locations equals location.objects.all. Data equals all locations. And then return render the request weather slash location list.html and data. And then in here, I'm going to import models, import location. All right. Next, inside my weather app, we need to create some templates. So I'll just create one template just so we get something up on the screen. So inside of templates, inside of weather, inside of location underscore list.html locations. I'm not going to have a base template here, just because I want to get something on the screen. For location and all locations, need to end for. We'll just have a bunch of city, just a bunch of p tags, address, location dot line underscore 1. Line 2, what is the city? state, zip code. So next I could create templates, or I'm sorry, fixtures. But right now I'm just going to use the admin panel. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is register my models, import address, and this location list. It really should say address list, but whatever. Admin dot site dot register address. All right. Hopefully we can get something on the screen real quick, and then we'll talk about third-party APIs. Uh-oh. Cannot import location. Address. Address. Go ahead and rename that. So inside of our URLs, everything working now, finally. All right, so now if I visit address, oh no, weather, just gonna nothing, it just says locations because I haven't added any locations. So let's add a couple locations. So here you can see we have our blog app, and here's our weather app. 123 fake street, Chicago, IL 60603. Does anybody have another fake address?
Two 250 Williams Street,
250 Williams Street, city.
Atlanta 30303.
Cool. All right.
I know, I like that zip.
All right.
White House address.
We could do that. Maybe we will do that later. So weather. All right. Looks like nothing's showing up yet. Why isn't anything showing up yet? So
Your
slash,
key name in the HTML. You changed it to all address. I don't think you changed it in the HTML file.
yep, you are correct. All right. There we go. Cool. So let's talk about third-party APIs. All right. So in Python, it's relatively straightforward, but I'm going to use there's a bunch of free third-party APIs that don't require a API key, but most do. So I'm going to look for, I think it's like Open Weather API. So Open Weather, it's called Open Weather Map. It has a pretty extensive API, so you can grab the current weather data, hourly forecast for 4 days, one call API, daily forecast for 16 days, climatic forecast for 30 days. You can bulk download a bunch of data. Solar radiation API, there's all kinds of crazy APIs. Road risk API, that's interesting. Historical weather API, so if you want to do some like statistical analysis on historic weather patterns or whatever, you can do that. But we just want to grab the basic, like the current weather or something like that. And maybe, so it looks like we'll make one call and get the current weather. 48 daily forecast for 7 days, maybe something like that too. Let's see. So typically APIs require an API key, and this is just so you're able to, the API allows you, or essentially keeps track of how many calls you're making. So, because they don't want you to make a gazillion calls and like overwhelm their servers. So they only allow so many API requests, depending, it could be per second, per minute, per hour, per day, per month. And if you exceed those, they want to start charging for that. But most of them that you'll use throughout this course, they're free. I don't encourage you to pay for APIs, just because a lot of them, they give like a certain number of API calls for free. So you can see here, please sign up to use our fast and easy way to work with weather APIs for free. In case your requirements go beyond our freemium accounts condition, you may check the subscription plan. There's a bunch of them. So if you want to do like news API, I think we did a little bit of this did we work with the news API before when we got into JavaScript or no?
No.
Okay. Well, this news API is also really, really good. It's got really great documentation. It's literally just an API to grab news articles. And the documentation is really good. So a lot of them need API keys. But for the weather, here, we're going to have to sign in or create an account. I thought I had an account here. Don't send anything to my spam account. Oh, did I already sign it? Yeah, okay. All right. So you can see I've got different API keys. A lot of them automatically give you an API key, and you just have one API key that you use throughout your entire application. But here you can create a test API, so you can like generate API keys here. So I've got a couple of API keys, and they're just alphanumeric characters that you store and you send with every request inside the URL. So here's my API key. I'm just going to use that inside of my view. I'm going to just store this somewhere temporarily because I'm going to need that. But I highly encourage you to read, again, a lot of this is reading a lot of the documentation. So weather data in a fast and elegant way. So if we scroll down, not good. Let's go to the API. So let's grab the current weather data. So you can API doc. So call current weather data, how to make an API call. So we can literally go to the URL for latitude and longitude by going to api.openweathermap.org/data/2.5/weather !_ latitude and some latitude variable and longitude, some longitude and API ID. And this is where our API key goes. So, but we want to use zip code. So you can see all the different parameters that you can pass in to the URL. So latitude and longitude says required, API ID. So API key is required. The mode. So you can get an XML, HTML. If you don't use mode parameter format, JSON is by default. So you can grab either via JSON format, XML, or HTML. Metrics, so optional. We might want to change this because if you don't use the units parameter, I think it's going to go with imperial. But like here is an example. So let's literally type this in the URL, and let's, in place of that API key, put my API key in there, and let's just go here and see what shows up. Cool. So we get this JSON back, in the URL if we visit this specific URL. So we get JSON with coordinates, latitude, and longitude, weather. We have an ID. I don't know what that stands for. Main clouds, description, overcast clouds. We have the temperature, 287. I don't think that is in degrees or Fahrenheit. I think that is in, it's not in Kelvin, that's in, I think it might be. So if we want to change the units, we can go to learn more. Standard, metric, imperial. Here's a list of parameters. Temperature is available in Fahrenheit, Celsius, and Kelvin units. So for Fahrenheit, use units equals imperial. So yeah, Kelvin is the default. So if I wanted to use this in just anywhere in here, I just do and units equals imperial. And there we go. It changed from 287 to 58 degrees. All right. Any questions about this API or using a third-party API like so? And we're going to get into actually getting it to display and specifically in Python. But this is how you can quickly see if your API is working. Because maybe if I deleted that, well, not save it, and like clicked enter, it says code 404 invalid API key.
I was looking at an API that said, if you want like a more detailed request, we recommend you enable HTTP compression. Is that a complicated thing to do?
I have no idea. I've never heard that before.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. All right. So here is just like a quick example. I highly encourage you to just get something working first. But this is using latitude and longitude, but we don't want to use latitude and longitude. We want to use zip code. So I actually know for a fact that this API allows us to use a zip code to get the weather, but not necessarily every API will use what you want to in order to grab the data. So some APIs might not use zip code. So you have to figure out some other way to put the API requests in a format that the API understands. But here, you can kind of see other features, geocoding, built-in geocoding, built-in an API request by zip code or a city ID or a city name. So we can also use city name, but I'm going to use zip code. So here, I'm going to use zip code. So I can do that. Where is country code? Is that required? I don't know, but whether, so I could guess the country code is just comma US. So I can do the exactly same thing. Come over here, instead of that API key, I can do that, what, 30303, is that zip code for Atlanta? And I can click enter. So here we go. Oh crap, let's go back, and instead of, all right, so just units imperial. So at the end of this, I'll just say and units equals imperial. And there we go. But what? Units. There we go. So now you can see like visibility 10,000 feet, speed, sunrise, sunset times. So we can like convert that into an actual time. But here we have an API endpoint. So I'm going to copy this over and just because I know I'm going to need that somewhere. And in here, I'm going to just say like API weather underscore API equals the string. And we'll do something with this at some point. All right. But now how do we actually grab the AP, like the weather for So we can like visit the URL and grab it via JSON. But now let's actually try to use this inside of this address list and make an API endpoint. So we can literally Google like how to make API requests in Python. So you've got, I don't know, dataquest.io. So that might be one. Real Python is a really good resource. So I'm just going to use Real Python because I know their documentation is really good. So if I'm scrolling down, you can read about the REST architecture. Talk about different GET requests, status codes. Kind of, we've already kind of talked about all this. API endpoints. Don't know if this is an actual API endpoint. No, it's not. So that doesn't necessarily work. But to write code that interacts with REST APIs, most Python developers turn to the requests library. So the request library will send and receive HTTP requests. So you can run GET requests, POST requests using the GET. So you can see like a quick example. We can import requests. We can have an API, like a URL endpoint. We can run request.get to that API endpoint, response.json. So we turn that response into a Python object because we get JSON back. And now we can actually work with this data. So if we just run pip install. So clear, I can run pip install requests. Is it request or request? Yeah. Oh. All right. So what I can do is import requests. Like so. Now, what I'm going to need to do is I've got all the addresses. Now I need to extract all of the zip codes from all the addresses and make a request to this API endpoint. But let's just hard code it first. So I'm going to do import request as REQ and see. I'm going to say, let's just hard code this right now. URL equals this part. And then I could say response equals request dot get URL. Then I can do, let's see. Whoop. What am I doing? And then I'm going to take in the data equals response dot JSON. And let's look at, and then I'm just going to print the data. Oh, looks like I have response data. Now I'm going to print the response as well. What questions do you have about what I'm doing so far? So when I visit this weather slash whatever, it goes to address list. Address list grabs all the addresses from the database. It also like added this URL endpoint, API endpoint as a variable. I installed the request library. I'm doing request as REQ just so I don't have to type out requests every single time. And I'm doing requests.get to that URL API endpoint. And I'm assigning that to a response variable. I'm going to print the response variable. You're going to see it's probably going to be in a response object. And then I'm going to turn that response object into It's got this JSON method on it, and I'm going to turn that JSON into a response data Python object. And now I've got that as a Python object. I'm going to print that Python object. So I'm going to do Python manage.py, run server. And now I come over here. I click enter. Nothing bad happened. But now you can see down here, I've got that response object. I got a 200. So that's what's being printed out right here. And it's got the coordinates and a Python object right here. So it's got the name Atlanta, minimum temperature 61.45, temperature max 65, pressure, humidity, icon, I don't know what that means, description, broken clouds, etc. But look, it looks like it's a object that has coordinates, has a weather key on it that's an array of an object, as a base, stations. Yeah. So what questions do you have about grabbing an API? From like a third-party API, such as like this weather API? Is it pretty straightforward?
So line 7 is your key, correct?
Yep.
And how would you make an environmental variable so you don't push this up?
So it's okay if you push this up, but you ideally will store it as an environmental variable on your local machine. And then you can access that. I don't know how to do it off the top of my head. I'd have to Google it because it's been a while since I've done that. But typically, if you were to deploy this to like Heroku or some other hosting website, when you deploy in your on your server, it'll give you a place to put in environmental variables on your server that's deployed, and you can just type it in there, and then you would access your environmental variables like it would be like I forgot, like process.env dot whatever your environmental variables named or something like that. But yeah. I'd have to Google how to do that. Well,
What would be the advantages of doing that over just throwing it in a file and then putting it in a git ignore to not be uploaded?
I mean, you can do that. I mean, there's nothing saying that you can't do that. But I wouldn't like worry too much about right now about hiding your API keys, because like I'll push this up and like my API keys are all over the place and no one ever uses them because they're free. And yeah. But yeah, we will talk about throwing it in a environmental variable when we actually are like pushing it up or like deploying it and stuff. All right. So our goal is actually to display the current weather on the locations. So what we can do is create a helper method called like get weather that takes in a zip code. And let's see. And then it will and then it will grab, it'll essentially do this part here. And instead of the zip code here, we'll actually say zip code. And then we can return. And what do we want to actually get? We would just only want broken clouds, base station, main, the current temperature. So it'd be like return res data main temp. I think that's it. So if we have all the addresses here, we can say like, let's see what we want to do. I guess we can store it in an array. So like weather. It's an empty array. Then we can say like for address and addresses. Data weather dot append get weather address dot zip code. Is that how you append it? Is it just a one-liner?
Should work for the list.
Yeah. So at the end, let's just print the data and let's see if we get. If my object traversal is correct. All right, so there we have addresses, we have a query set, and we have a weather of an array of weather for each Chicago and Atlanta. So in our address list, we can also say like H2, current temperature, for address and addresses. So, but I want to grab, maybe this isn't the best way to store this in my view. So we have the address.
Could you just create separate objects for, or yeah, separate key value pairs for each call that you make?
Yeah, let's see what I'm gonna do. So all addresses is gonna be an array. And I'm gonna append an object. That's gonna represent and address. Like so. Does that work? So, so this is still a list, but it's a list of objects. So all addresses dot address. So it would be like a nested. So it's all addresses. What does it say? All right, empty variable tag. Okay, that's an error. So address dot address. I wonder if probably shouldn't call it address. I'll call it address info. Set of address info, weather. Let's call it temp actually.
Need to
There we
do-
go.
Oh, never mind.
So Chicago, oh, I'm missing something. Oh. All right. So there we go. We got locations, the current temperature. You'd say like degrees. We could say even like current temperature in. And we can actually grab this. So from here, the view, I think in here, it also said, well, I don't even want to do that. Just adding more complexity. Yeah. So we have current temperature in Chicago, it's 47. Current temperature in Atlanta is 63. So you can kind of see here, all addresses in an array with an address and a query object or address object, and then the temperature like so. All right. Questions on grabbing data from a third-party API? Nobody has any questions?
Would there be a problem? Like my first inclination was to, append more to data, but it seems like the way that you did it is better. Is that like a best practice, or is that just like your preferred way of doing it, keeping it all in one variable inside that data object?
No, you don't necessarily have to. Ideally, yeah, like, are you talking about like adding additional keys on here?
Yeah,
Or-
like you've had the one, and you've done that, and it seems like a better way to do it, but I'm always inclined to do more. I was just wondering if that's like a standard thing to do, if there's pros and cons, or if that's just seems to be how it's done mostly.
I don't want to know if there's a best practice, but I try to put data that's related to one another together. Because in over here, if I had like weather or temperature and that being an array of temperature, there's nothing that's technically linking the index. There's like the only thing that's linking it is the index. And that's not necessarily a foolproof way of linking the address of Chicago to the temperature of this, whatever temperature is in this list. So I wanted to, typically things that are related to one another should be grouped together. Yeah. I'll say the hard part is not hard part, but like some of the APIs aren't as great to work with as this open weather. And some of the data, the way it's structured when it's returned is really, really dirty. So you have to make sure you read through the response to see how to actually access the data. Because right here, I'm just grabbing that response, going to main, grabbing the temperature. But sometimes it could be like a nested array with an object, with a key that has another array, and it can just be like a big nested. It can be really ugly at times. But this is how I did it. But yeah. And I think I'm going to end it there.